I knew I was gonna have to insulate my camper, as everyone was telling me I'm not a local until I survived my first winter. When I told them we were living in an RV, they basically just laughed at me. Last night it was 6 degrees, I've already insulated, and honestly I'm still waiting for it to actually get cold inside. I don't really know how RV insulation is supposed to work, but when I dropped the underbelly, I could see there was a lot of empty space, and that meant there was room to improve it. So I sketched out a quick plan based on what actually mattered for winter survival. First, we're gonna insulate the whole water system, tanks and lines. We're creating a thermal barrier in tight spaces and directing heat where it matters most. Next, we're gonna fill the empty cavities under the camper. Those voids trap cold air, so we packed them full to keep the warmth close to the tanks and pipes and keep our little toesies warm on the floor. Finally, we seal every opening in the underbelly. After the cover goes on, we're gonna use gap and crack sealer to make sure that no warm air goes out, no cold air gets in, and as an extra, try to keep rodents out of it. Before we even start insulating though, we do have to clean the underbelly and clear out any old insulation. When you've been driving an RV around pretty much everywhere, the undercarriage gets covered in dirt, road grime, and even animal mess from the woods. Old insulation gets torn up, saggy and wet, and none of that helps when you're trying to keep water from freezing. The goal here is simple. We want to keep the whole water system from freezing. That's it, just no ice, allow the water to flow. The tanks are tucked under the camper where there isn't enough room for thick insulation, so I needed something thin that still created a thermal barrier. To solve that, I wrapped each tank in silver bubble wrap insulation. It fits the tight space and acts like a blanket, trapping heat around the tank. But the tanks aren't the only issue. The water lines also run along the underbelly and even outside in some spots. If those freeze, it doesn't matter how warm the tanks are. So I wrapped every water line with 1/2-inch pipe insulation. It's cheap, easy to work with, and secured with duct tape. Nothing fancy, just consistent coverage. To make sure the tanks actually stay warm, I also redirected one of the heating ducts so warm air blows directly across the tops of the tanks. That way, anytime the camper is warm, the tanks are warming too. Even with the tanks and lines insulated, there were still huge open areas where cold air could just sit. So next I had to address the underbelly airflow problem. Those voids in the underbelly were basically creating a section where warm air went to die. As soon as the warm air got down there, it slowly went cold and then it froze everything else. So we needed to fill those with something to make sure that the hot air that actually went into the underbelly stayed there and didn't slowly dissipate. For insulating this section, I used pink fiberglass, not because it's the best or most advanced option, but because it's affordable, easy to work with, and honestly, it just gets the job done. I packed it around the tanks and pipes and filled as much of the empty space as I could. The key here is not to compress it too tightly. Fiberglass works by trapping air, so you want it snug, not crushed. I worked methodically through the underbelly, filling gaps and shaping the insulation to fit around obstacles so there weren't any obvious cold pockets left behind. Again, I'm not going after perfection, just consistent coverage. Once everything was insulated, I reinstalled the underbelly, and that's when I noticed the next problem. Even with all that insulation in place, there were still gaps and cracks all over the place that would let cold air in and warm air out, which is what pushed me into the next phase, sealing the system completely. Those gaps in the underbelly aren't just letting cold air in and warm air out, they're also a direct invitation for mice, chipmunks, and other critters to come inside. Once they're in, they can chew wires, nest in insulation, and create a whole new set of problems. So this phase was all about sealing everything up tight. I used expanding gap and crack foam to close every opening I could find. It's great for sealing small cracks because it expands to fill irregular spaces, and it sticks well to metal and plastic surfaces. The goal is to create a sealed shell around the tanks and pipes so warm air stays inside the system and cold air stays outside. Once the foam is set and the gaps are sealed, it's time for the moment of truth, to test the system and see if everything stays warm in real conditions. A few nights after completing this project, we had our first freeze, and a few after that, we had our first snow, and the water was still running each morning. The real test came in January with sub-0 degree nights, and we still woke up with running water, even when the heater failed because I forgot to fill the propane up. We still had to pull out extra blankets for the inside, but our water didn't freeze. What mattered wasn't the materials, it was putting a barrier between the cold air and the critical components of our camper. I'd love to buy everything green, but survivability comes first. Tanks, water lines, voids, and gaps, handling these issues produces results no matter what your underbelly looks like or the materials you can afford. But this system is incomplete. Just installing the underbelly won't be enough for us. Wind is still a huge problem, and even if we're keeping that warm air in, if wind is whipping underneath the camper all night long, that's gonna provide a great way to take that heat and just give it to the world. So the next step is skirting the RV to block airflow completely. In the next video, I'll show you how we did that modularly in a way that I could remove the siding and leave and go camping if I wanted to. As always, thanks for watching, guys. If this helped, feel free to like or subscribe. We don't know what we're doing, but we're gonna do it anyway.